So, good morning, Rich. Good morning, Louis. Good morning, Rachel. I'm very pleased to have this meeting with you, to have this panel with you, and also very emotionally touched by this occasion because it's something that can really make a difference for us here in Italy. So, before getting into it, I would like to introduce you to our audience and to the ones who will see the recording of this panel later on. So we have Rich Legate from Attitude is Everything. We have Louis Gilbert from Drake Music and Rachel Wolffsohn from OHMI. These three organizations are amongst the most active in the United Kingdom scene, and some of the great examples we can spot around abroad in Europe to see what the best practices are when it comes to talk about inclusion and access within music. So I think everybody is feeling at ease with the panel. You hear me and you can speak. So I would love to get into the topic, and in a way we're gonna have this conversation the way that they did in the past, the old Greek, the Latin, the Romans. So it's me having in a way a conversation with what they would have called this barbaric population, but this this I will state this is kind of a syndrome that every nation has, probably also the United Kingdom has. So in Italy, we always think that we are the place where civilization has born, and so all our barbaric population, the same they do in France, maybe about Illuminism, or in Germany, and so on. But what is best is to meet other cultures, to cross borders, and hybridate with what we can take each other from you, and learn and grow together. So I will start with Rich, asking Rich to introduce shortly what Attitude is Everything about for those who don't know your charity, and then I will make some questions to you.
Great. Buongiorno, everyone. Hello, Elvis. Thank you very much for having us. Something we do in meetings like this, for people who may be in the meeting, we often do a visual description of what we look like for our audience. So I will say I am a white male with very light blonde hair. I'm wearing a brown jumper, and I'm in a cream-coloured room in my office in South London. And as Elvis has said, I work for a UK charity called Attitude is Everything. We have over 20 years of experience of assisting the events and music industries with being as accessible as possible to deaf and disabled audiences. So music fans buying tickets, going to gigs, going to festivals, going to club nights, professionals, people who want to work in the music industry as managers, agents, promoters, and also with the project that I lead myself called Next Stage with Artists. So improving the inclusion and the access for deaf and disabled artists who want to move through the music industry and continue their career or start a career in the music industry. Our way of doing things is very user-led. So when I talk about user-led, I mean sort of audience-led. We listen to disabled people, and they very much are a guiding kind of voice on what we do and don't do. An example of that would be that we have one thing that sort of underpins a lot of our work with the live music industry is our mystery shopping program. And this is a way for us to find out how venues, festivals and events are being accessed or not being accessed by deaf and disabled people who want to go with ticket holding customers. So we collect feedback, but when I talk about it being user led, we then bring that feedback back to the venues, and it also informs us on how to structure our training programs and our work in general with venues and festivals. So
Rich, let me clarify this, because the concept of mystery shopping is probably is not that common, is not that frequent. Because myself, I've heard this, especially in the let's say marketing and commercial excellence program of fast moving good products. This kind of, so usually mystery shoppers are the guys entering a shop and simply being a customer, buying things or trying to buy it. How do you do this with music?
So the way it works for us is we have an open application where any disabled person can apply to us to do a mystery shop of a venue. So we'll cover the cost of their ticket or event ticket if they're going to a festival. They're given sort of instructions on things that we want to find out about that space, about the staff, about the information that's available online. So it's basically getting a record of your journey as the customer from start to finish, and not just with regards to any access that may be linked to that person's impairment or health condition. It's a general looking at, so if it's somebody with a hidden impairment that's not a mobility impairment, we still want to know about any step-free access to the venue, or an accessible toilet that might be at the venue. Is the toilet in use? Is it in a good condition? Is it being used to store boxes in rather than actually being, it's things like that. But we also look at sort of travel, the attitudes of the staff, how staff may have dealt with any questions in advance or even at the gig itself, whether you can access the merch stand, the food and drink, and attitudes of security, and if any medication needs to be brought into a venue. So we then take that record from that music fan, from that customer, and we send that back in a report to the venue. And we obviously work with them constructively. We get through about 250 shops a year, mystery shops a year. And so that's where I come back to the beginning of what I was saying, we're like a user-led organization, in that we learn from disabled people who are very much like obviously the experts in their conditions and access that can remove barriers for them. And the mystery shopping program really underpins our bigger work with venues and festivals.
So if I understood correctly, it's not just about assessing and evaluating what the situation is like, but you have a strong alliance also with the venues. You give feedback to them in order to help them build up a better scene, a better venue, a more accessible, and all the things that you described before. Is it?
Yeah, exactly. And we work in partnership with the music industry in the UK. We're all about really working positively in collaboration with partners. So whereas we take those reports, we have a project, a campaign called the Charter of Best Practice, and this charter has around 180 venues and festivals now on it, from bronze, silver to gold level of access. And it's a way for us to celebrate and showcase the best practices within the UK in live industry of access. So to get onto the bronze level of the charter, I don't know the specifics actually myself, but there'll be certain things you need to do with regards to your access, putting information on your website about access to your venue, having a step-free entrance, having training, disability equality training for your staff. But then when you get up to gold, we're looking at multiple accessible toilets, viewing step-free viewing platforms and such like that. So that's widely recognized within the UK live music industry. and it's a really, really clear model for us to bring venues onto the charter, to train them, to encourage them to take feedback from mystery shops, and also to learn from them about how they find that they solve problems, because obviously it will be the same in Italy, where you have venues are in a great variety of spaces, very sometimes old buildings, and therefore you have to be quite creative sometimes about how you do solve these access situations, and especially at the grassroots level, so at the lower end of, I shouldn't say lower, but like at that kind of small grassroots venue level where money is very tight. We have to work very creatively and supportively with those venues, because we obviously love the live music industry, but we desperately believe, obviously, that it should be for everybody. And at a grassroots level, sometimes it's not as easy to solve those access problems.
Yes, I see your point. It's very interesting. And previously, I was professionally engaged with music live, and I thought that I knew enough about it. But even this experience I'm doing with you, the fact that we were organizing this panel, I had to face several issues that I never thought about, it never existed even. So browsing on the internet, I found that kind of big festivals like Glastonbury had a path collaborating with you, and they had to make some changes, some important changes to get to the level their ambition wanted to go. But also, it's not just about the festival itself. It's something that you, as a state, we do together, music. It's something that is kind of ancestral. Let's not see it only in the technical way. Gathering together, listening to music and dancing and sharing emotions is something that we do. And it's interesting, the perspective of doing this from the audience point of view. So from the disabled people point of view, not only deciding in a cold way what should be or not. So coming to a suggestion, I would like to ask you, what could we do here in Italy, in your view, to start putting the same constructive pressure to the local venues, to the promoters, in order to start this growth with them?
Yeah, big question. Well, not, I mustn't speak because I don't know. I wouldn't know the picture in Italy with regards to access currently at grassroots level. I think it's very important for disabled people to be to have their voice within the music industry, and certainly if there is a way to bring together deaf and disabled music fans and hear their experiences of the Italian scene and what it's like to go to gigs in Italy, this would be a great starting point, because I think you can't really make any assumptions on what anyone's experience would be like, and therefore the starting point would be to sort of get a picture of how much are, as we found, and we find constantly, deaf and disabled people are a huge number of people in the UK, a big part of the population, and it's important to remember that, like, within the music industry, there'll be a big part of your customer base if you're a venue, and therefore you need to hear from them first, and hear what their experiences are like in Italy. So it may be research, it may be surveying people's experiences, and then pulling together sort of kind of action plan for where you think the biggest priorities are to be sort of solved in regards to the grassroots scene. That may be around your sort of physical access of venues, or it may be something as simple as saying, why don't we launch a campaign to get all of the grassroots venues in Italy to display on their website a clear kind of statement of what the access is like at their venue, with photos, even if it has to say, we do not have step-free access. this provides like a disabled person with the choice and the information to know they can go to that gig or not, because people's conditions often fluctuate. So sometimes if you say we have 5 steps into our venue, they might think I might be able to do 5 steps today actually. So that's why we always say information and access actually really starts online, and that's something you can do quite easily with every venue before we're looking at sort of making a practical physical changes to structures and things like that. I would definitely start with the voices of disabled people within your music industry need to be represented and heard. Yeah.
So information and awareness could be the drivers. Thank you, Rich. Thank you very much. You introduced some physical aspects of the matter, which is very relevant as well. Consider that music is an expression of body and soul, and this is communicated from the musicians to the audience with body and soul as well. So I'll ask Rachel to have a word on it, and I'll ask Rachel to talk about the projects they have done with OHMI, which is very focused on the physical aspect of the musical career.
Thank you. Is another UK-based charity, and our attention is around musical instruments that you all might have grown up playing. So things like trumpets and violins and guitars, well-known instruments. All of them pretty much require 10 very dexterous fingers and 2 dexterous arms to play. There's very little that you can do without that. So our focus is trying to find solutions to those instruments that allow people with all sorts of upper limb impairments to play. There are many, many conditions that can cause an upper limb impairment, and they can broadly be, people can be divided into 2 groups. Those that were musicians and then something's happened and they acquire a condition. So it might be a degenerative condition, it might be a traumatic injury, something. And then there is a second group of people who are born with various conditions. So the way we've approached this is through a competition. Initially it was annually and now it's biannually. And that has 3 different categories. So the first category is about playable instruments. So these are instruments that can be played very strictly without the use of one hand or arm. And by finding instruments through that means, we can then adapt them if required for a bespoke needs. And we've got a broad range of instruments that have been, solutions have been found for. Many of these were developed for somebody, an individual who acquired a disability and needed to play that particular instrument. So that's why we've got a quite unique range of instruments. So we've had things like saxophones and bagpipes, guitars, flutes, recorders and clarinets.
So Rachel, if you do agree, we can show some examples of these.
Please do. Yeah. Please do.
Let me see how good I am with sharing the screen and all the stuff in here.
Probably better than me.
Okay.
So a lot of these instruments are made by individual makers, some by very technically talented instrument makers, and as a result, they're also quite expensive. You can imagine if you're making handmade instruments, they can be quite expensive. So the next stage of work is to then try and make them at a more entry-level price. So working with people like 3D printers and that sort of thing to create entry-level versions of. So yes, on this screen you can see a 100 saxophone, 100 recorder, a Chapman stick, which isn't developed specifically for anyone with an impairment but can be played with one hand. It's a guitar, bass guitar range instrument, but you use a tap method, so your fingering hand again could be left or right depending on what you have use of, and can make a guitar sound to allow you to join in. We've got a 100 flute, a tenor saxophone, a soprano saxophone, 100 bagpipes. These are a digital solution, and the 100 clarinet. And the person in showing that, we're going onto the screen. So this is a saxophone in use, so you can see the sort of standard you can play even with just one hand. This is David Nabb, who had a stroke.
Okay.
Oh, it's not gone.
Oh, wow.
No. So these is our second category. So this stands for just normal instruments, nothing changed about the instrument, but just supported so that one can play it without taking the weight of the instrument in the brass instruments, or in the third case there with your feet. So this is a girl who was born with no arms. That's a perfectly standard cello, just supported in a way that allows her to reach it with her feet, which are very dexterous, because all of her time she's using her feet where we would use fingers. And her cello bow has a sort of 3D printed piece placed over the frog so that she can grip it in her toes. I'm not sure, there's a video of her playing next, but I'm not sure that's going to work, is it?
Let's see if it works. No, I think it does.
Okay, never mind. And then the third thing we do, which the next slide shows an example of, is bespoke instruments. So this is in parts rather than altogether, I apologise. But it was created for a girl who's got short fingers on a couple of her digits. So all the holes have got covered holes rather than open holes, which standard on a clarinet. And you can see on the right hand picture you've got two long pieces adjusted so that her digits can reach them. That solution here cost about £100. A one-handed clarinet costs £6,000. We're working towards a 3D printed clarinet that would be about £300. So you can see there's quite a broad range of costs there. The next slide is a shameless promotion. Actually, OHMI is 10 years old this year, and so a week on Saturday we're having a live stream event. So if you want to see our latest round of competition instruments, then please join us. There's a link there, and it's also on our website, which you can see there.
So it's gonna be in 10 days or so, is it?
It is, yeah, it is.
Wow, congratulations! And I will join, and I will invite all of the guys I can to do the same.
Yeah, everyone's welcome.
So let me just add one comment to what you just exposed. I think this embodies literally the concept of diversity, because every single musician and disabled musician could have a different body and a different need.
Yeah.
And how do you cope with all this complexity of needs?
One of the reasons that we focus on instruments that can be played without the use of one hand or arm is that does encompass a group of people. It's not everybody, but it does encompass a group of people. So whether someone's missing two fingers, a whole arm, is got a weakness from from cerebral palsy or a stroke, there are a group of people that can benefit from one solution. So obviously scale helps keep costs down. So that's one of our approaches. Obviously then we've got the bespoke approach, where we can take the technique that's been applied to that instrument for one-handed use and apply it for a different use where needed. But it's really important that finance is not a barrier either. At the moment it sort of is. But we're working on that as well, and trying to address that challenge.
Because usually when you come to creating a special project, the first thing questioning your aim is how do you fund it? How can you make it without the economical sustain? So this is something which, for a so wide effort that you put, I can imagine it's also a wide expanse and wide effort in terms of the economical engagement.
Yeah, so for a lot of our work, we are like the hub of a wheel, and we're just, people who need our equipment, or teachers who are trying to teach children who need our equipment, come to us, and we then point them in the direction of the maker. So a lot of our website is purely just signposting from people that need it to the people who have it. Where we've commissioned particular pieces of equipment, we're able to sell those through our website, so that supports our work and supports the cost of finding the next solution. So with the clarinet, we found a clarinet that works. It's brilliant, but it's £6,000. We need costs covered to develop the 3D printed version, or the next stage of that. So by having some things for sale from us as well, that allows us to fund our ongoing work, which is really important.
help me visualize the scale of it. How many users, how many instruments, how many designers and supporters in many ways you gathered through years?
Oh my goodness, there's a question. I would say most rounds of the competition, we probably have around 30 entries, something like that. Some people will put in more than one entry, but it's that sort of scale. We have around 30 children learning our instruments through our Music Makers programme, but over recent years we've been working with music hubs. So in England there's a fashion for teaching the whole class in primary school a particular instrument, and if you've got a child with a physical impairment they may not be able to use the standard equipment. So this year alone we've identified about 270 children, I think it is, across the board who would benefit from adapted equipment. We also support adults who might need equipment or want to try it. And we have a hire scheme which has about 300 instruments or pieces of equipment that are available so that people can try before they buy, because you might not know whether you're going to get on with a particular solution. As a child, children often start an instrument and give up a few months down the track. So it just gives them a chance to try things before they're committing to these quite large costs for purchase themselves, and also potentially evidence their abilities so that they might get grant funding or crowdfunding or other sources of support to buy a piece of equipment for themselves.
So I hope the musicians back me with this calculating, but we are in the scale of, you said 270 children. Mm-hmm. So it's about like 3 orchestras.
Yes, and that's in 2 music hubs, and there are 119 music hubs in England. So when you start multiplying that across England and then across Europe and the world, there are an awful lot of people that could benefit from equipment. And sometimes it's not just as you might think. So there are obvious children that you might think would benefit, but actually there are also children with things, say, on the autism spectrum, who actually really struggle with sitting still and then going back to an instrument, and just having a trumpet on a stand allows them to integrate in the music lesson more effectively as well. Even though they don't have a sort of standard physical impairment, there are still benefits to the equipment that can allow more people to experience music making.
Thank you very much, Rachel. I want now to ask Louis to have a word, because we have touched the importance of building a network of different people, from users themselves to designers and to startups, universities, researchers, and many others, which I can't imagine now. And Louis from Drake Music. Drake is an organization which really made a piece out of the network. For what I've seen, there is something that you can teach us on how to build a network.
Yeah, hi everyone. I just thought I'd give a description of myself. I'm a man with short brown hair, black glasses, and a brown beard. I think the joy of Drake is due to the variety of our work, and I think a lot of people can really adhere to what we believe in. So we believe in the social model, which believes that the person is not disabled. Society has made the barriers, which I think creates an instant entry point for people to really relate to. Our work is so varied and diverse that we're very keen on making sure that people can take part in lots of different ways. So we're creating opportunities and instruments to make music fully accessible. So for instance, we created an instrument called the Telecaster that has allowed a musician to play the national anthem on our Paralympics celebration ceremony recently, which was fantastic. We're trying to get people involved in music at all levels. We're not just looking at, the established musicians. We're looking at young musicians, so creating commissions, creating opportunities for people to experiment with their music making and to give it a go and give it a try. We're also trying to sort of build integrated music cultures where disabled and non-disabled musicians work together to create sort of successful projects. And I think that really helps in building our community, is that we've got all of these variety of different options and the sort of entry points. We're also looking at training staff within school settings and community settings to fully integrate sort of principles of inclusion so that young people can feel more and more involved, and then they become more familiar with Drake music. Our community works really well because everyone knows each other as well, which is really helpful. So we'll have some people working on one project who know someone through Rachel or Rich's work. I think anyone has touched Drake music, has touched Attitudes Everything and OHMI's work as well.
So I guess that also finding the right perspective and the right collaborators will start from well, it's kind of delicate and intimate sometimes, and for me it's very hard to understand how you can do it. Probably the situation is very different from Italy to UK. I've seen that you have several positions open. You do recruit people, and you said that you engage people in projects together, even disabled and not disabled. So how do you succeed in finding the right people that work to? What is the criteria or the driver that you have to find the right people to work with?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, Elvis. I think we're lucky that our community is very loud and our community is very proud of the work that they do and very good at sharing the work that they do. And they also do fantastic work. Like, I love all of the work of our artists that we do. When you chat about recruitment, one of the opportunities, and we'll get to meet one of our artists in residence who completed it a bit later, Sonia, is that we offer a payroll opportunity for 3 artists in residence to work 2 days a week with us. And we think that that's that's not common. And we think that
not at all.
Yeah, and I think that really sort of.
What do you mean by residence? Because residence can be of different scale.
Yeah, so I think I'll rely more on Sonia to talk about it more, but I can give you a bit more of a general, where she can give you the specifics. So we want people to interact with us and interact with the work that we do, because of the work we do sometimes can take an advocacy wing, sort of advocacy position. We're looking for people to make a difference politically as well as sort of musically. And so because of using the social model as that underpins all of our work, no matter what we're doing, of understanding the barriers aren't the person, it's society, that really helps in sort of galvanizing energy and action. And that helps us create a really strong community, so that we've all got a real strong focus of what we want to adhere to. And I know that's the same for Rachel and Rich, knowing their work separately as well.
So in a way, you made a little spoiler out of calling Sonia, and indeed we have several surprises and guests to help us understand what we're talking about. We said that I read somewhere that there is a motto of the movement, which is something like nothing about us without us, is it? Yeah. So could you explain us in a one line, and then we jump to some witnesses?
Yeah, well, I think Rich was chatting about that earlier. It's just also always involve the voice of the people you're working with. Like, we are working in collaboration. We're not working to people. We're working with people, and that's the most important thing.
So let's listen to some of these people. In particular, I'm very pleased to have with us Sonia Allori, which I'm now trying to switch to speaker. Yes, Sonia? There we go. Ciao Sonia, come stai?
Ciao, sto bene, grazie.
So Sonia is half Italian and half English, I think, which is perfect for our aim here for our meeting. Sonia herself, she is a musician and also a deaf person. So this to someone who is not accustomed to this topic might sound a bit strange, even if we have great examples from the past. Everybody knows a great musician in the past which was deaf, but in considering that you live your music career every day with your condition. It's something that we really need to understand how. So, Sonia, please give us a overview, brief of what have been your journey. Hey, there is a dog there. What have been your journey in music, and what do you think is more precious for us to listen this time?
Firstly, buongiorno a tutti. I'm a woman and I have brown hair and glasses, and I'm currently wearing my dog as well. So I live in Scotland and in the Highlands of Scotland, which is very far away from everywhere. And sorry. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so I'm just going to put her here. Let me see. There we go. Yeah, I think dogs should come with a warning. They're so unpredictable. She's okay now. So I just finished my PhD in composition in 2014, and I was trying to sort of establish a career, and Drake Music gave me my first commission as a composer. So 2014 seems like a long time ago now, doesn't it? I don't know where the time's gone. So that with that commission, that really acted as a springboard. So I was able to really build on that, and I think that commission was probably crucial in developing my career. So I'm now at the point where work comes in regularly as a composer and performer, which is, lovely. And then in last year, 2020, the year that we will never forget, of course, I had applied and was accepted onto the Artist in Residence program at Drake, and I think we had one meeting in person in March in London, where the three of us were all together, and then the world changed, and the residents actually went online, so it just became a completely different thing. And we did the residency online, but still felt that we were actually embedded within the organization. And I've forgotten your other questions. I'm so sorry.
So I think the residence was mainly online based because of the and COVID restrictions or so. But as I was asking also, Louis, let us understand, because when we think about a residence, it could be a 3 days residence, a 15 days residence in which people compose together, or something else. I think the one you're doing or you've done with Drake is even wider and more complex in terms of working with people, developing projects. Let us understand what you did during the residence.
I'm sorry, are you asking Louis or me?
I was asking you, Sonia.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, so the concept, the basic idea of it was that we would be working 2 days a week within the organization, and we would do different projects with the different branches of Drake Music. And what actually happened was that the residency, it enables each resident to sort of design and develop a path for them, where we work together, and we also work on our own projects. And it lasted for 10 months. and it was really sustaining throughout the pandemic. Really sustaining. And for me, I was able to, I think, just realize what the essence of my work is, and I could concentrate on that for the 10 months, and I've come out feeling like I have a stronger sense of what my practice is, and where I want to go with it. And I was playing an instrument. I was learning an instrument called the UI, which is made by Akai, and it's an electronic wind instrument. So it's an amazing instrument. It's a digital wind instrument that connects to programs such as Ableton, and you can use it to trigger sounds, but also you can use it to play as a traditional instrument. But the difference is that it can sound like anything from a didgeridoo to a clarinet. So I've been honing my skills on that, and have been writing some new works, because it's an instrument that is lighter than I could compare it to a clarinet, because I'm also a clarinet player. But it's much lighter, and it allows me to play with more virtuosity, because I don't have to put so much pressure on the mouthpiece with my embouchure, because I've lost the sensation in one side of my face. So I'm able to be more virtuosic again, I think, with it. I hope that answers your question.
It does. We have another guest that we can invite to join us, and he's another artist that has worked with Drake music, and I found him very interesting, his path. Let me welcome Kris Halpin. Kris, can you hear us?
Hello.
Hello. Wow, what a deep voice, Kris.
My sore throat is making me sound extra dramatic, isn't it? I don't think you can see me.
It's not yet.
But you can hear me, so that's the main thing.
Okay, as you like.
We seem to have a bit of a camera issue. Let me just see if I can make it work. I don't think it's going to happen, which is weird, but okay. Oh, hang on. Does that work? It works.
Hey, there you are.
You just have to press the button. It turns out it's quite simple. Don't trust me with modern technology, apparently, which goes against everything I'm about to talk about, frankly.
Okay, I'll try to make you talk less possible for your voice, not because of the things that you will say, obviously. So, Kris, let me show our audience a piece of music and video that you created. You sent me one fantastic video. Is this a single of yours, Koi no Yokan, is it?
That's correct, yeah. It's a completely live performance with the magical Miu gloves.
Okay, I'll ask something about this later after the showing the video. Okay, so it's just the time to show. Yes, some technical issues. Okay, there we go. Are you wearing these gloves at the moment?
I'll put one on for you to see. Yeah, actually, what I'm wearing now is something quite different. This is not what you've seen in the video. What you saw in the video was the prototype pair that was developed in about 2015. That came out. What I'm wearing now is what you'd call a production model. So these are the ones that people can buy nowadays. Now that we live in the future, and you can actually get these. I've spent 5 years traveling the world, and people going, "Where can we buy a pair?" And it's like, you can't, but now you can. There you go. Yeah. So
tell us something about, because he said that there was a prototype. Now it's gonna be scaled for the market, if I got it right. And,
that's correct.
So I mean, I think that you had to work on it to get this done.
Well, it's not a lot to do with me. I'm really just the end user. The reason I have these is that my impairment, I have cerebral palsy, which affects amongst other things, it affects my hands. But even as a young person, I was pretty confident that I was going to be a successful musician. My dad played guitar in bands and stuff, so it was very natural for me to want to be a musician, I think. But obviously I have a mobility impairment and a hand impairment, but nevertheless I wanted to be a kind of, for want of a better expression, a guitar hero. And it was later on, it was only a little later, when I was about 13, 14, that I discovered songwriting and wanting to be a songwriter and sing, and bands like Aria and people like Michael Stipe and Damon Albarn and Tom York kind of gave me the kind of courage to think that I could sing and be okay at singing. So I sort of became a songwriter at that point. And it was all going okay as a career, really. I was mainly focused on solo stuff. I always faced barriers to venues and things. It was always hard to perform live, because often, like in Birmingham, where I'm from, there's a couple of hit places where indie artists play that I've never played, because they're not accessible to me at all, and there's not really many live music opportunities for me in the Midlands, certainly. But apart from that, I then started to experience more barriers to do with my hand impairment, specifically in terms of how I was playing the guitar and the piano, and it was getting much harder and more difficult. So sort of combined with the attitudinal and societal barriers that I think, Rich, you've hinted at some of this stuff in what you were talking about. This was very much from the point of view of the artist, me as the artist, and facing barriers to playing gigs. But then when my hand impairment got worse as well, then I thought, well, I'm really finished, aren't I? That's going to be kind of the end of my career. And in really just desperation, I suppose, I just went on the internet and was just asking people, who does anything with, I can't be the only disabled musician struggling, but growing up in a small village in the middle of nowhere, I certainly felt like I was. And people kept saying to me, oh, you need to talk to Drake Music. Drake Music is the charity that will help you. They know all about this stuff. And we played around with different accessible technologies at that time, which didn't really get me that excited. I had this big scope of this big idea of being a virtuoso of an instrument. I didn't really like the idea at that time of using an iPad or something. At that point, Drake Music were actually having a conversation with Imogen Heap, who's a Grammy Award-winning singer-songwriter from the UK, who's also produced a bunch of stuff with people like Taylor Swift and Ariana Grande. And she was developing this wearable technology because she was trying to solve a problem for herself that was nothing to do with disability. She was just trying to solve the problem that she makes electronic music. And as she famously said, you're just watching a woman singing with her laptop, and for all you know, she might be checking her emails. There wasn't a visual reference point to say this is where the electronic music is coming from. So she developed this. I'll get you the prototypes 1 second. What was then the prototype Memu glove. These are really well worn, by the way. These are really battered. And they developed what they called the collaborator program, where they developed 15 pairs which they made and sent out into the wild. Most people will probably have heard of Ariana Grande. She was one of the people who got a pair at this time, and thanks to Drake Music, I was another one of the 15 people who got a pair. These are the prototypes that are very well worn. They still say Drake on them, just about. It's a little Drake Music sticker on them. It's mostly worn off now. And that was it, really. I started performing and touring, it was actually Attitude is Everything who approached me about doing a national tour to highlight a campaign that they were thinking about in terms of like, what's access like for artists at this level, independent venue level. So in collaboration with Independent Venue Week, Attitude is Everything and Independent Venue Week put together this UK tour, and we made a film about it to highlight what were the barriers to being a disabled musician, and what was it like touring the UK and playing indie venues. And also, obviously, there was the excitement of the gloves and everything, which, to say that things took off would be underselling it. I think things really kind of exploded very quickly for me. People were just immediately very excited about the idea of a disabled musician using a technology that Ariana Grande was going to use, and there was this big kind of buzz about that. And that week-long tour was originally scheduled for a week, and that tour went on for about 18 months, and it finished. The final night was at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. It opened in the Boiler Room in Guilford to about 100 people, and ended in front of many thousands in the US about 18 months later. So it went okay.
It's impressing, Kris, and kind of a great example for everybody. And if I can state this after all of the witnesses that we heard, is that making this change is kind of approaching to it as a warp, so an intersection between different layers. So you have the musicians, the audience, the venues, the promoters, the researchers, the attention of the media, the movement, or the social movement. And this is very, very, how to say, it's enlightening a way for us, especially when it comes to start from a point which might be the same you had faced in the past in England. Maybe you are ahead of us in this. And I wanted to have a witness about what the situation is like from Italy. So I'd like to welcome also to our conversation Mr. Riccardo Caudali, which is a saxophonist and a blind person. Buongiorno Riccardo.
Ciao Elvis, grazie.
So Riccardo doesn't speak much English, so I will help him translating to the audience. But he did understand everything of the conversation, because there with him there is his companion, which is Helena. Ciao Helena as well. And Helena speaks English and helped him understand what we said before. So Riccardo, ci vorresti raccontare un pezzo della tua storia? I'm asking Riccardo to tell a piece of his histories.
Sì, io la musica ho iniziato a studiarla intorno ai 12 anni, e in quel periodo avevo una piccola ipovisione che mi permetteva con difficoltà di leggere gli spartiti. Una volta che... Yes.
No, continua Riccardo, magari parliamo un po' e poi io traduco.
Ok, dopodiché quando avevo 20 anni purtroppo il problema è peggiorato e mi sono ritrovato senza poter leggere la musica. Nel frattempo ero passato attraverso lo studio di diversi strumenti e fino ad approdare allo studio del sassofono. All'inizio è stato un hobby, dopodiché sono riuscito ad entrare al Conservatorio Santa Cecilia di Roma.
Okay, so basically Riccardo started studying music at the age of 12, if I got it right, playing different instruments over time. And then finally in adult phase, he started studying the sax in a private school in Rome, a little bit more intensively. And his aim was to make this his career. So at the age of 32, he succeeded entering the the saxophone course at Santa Cecilia Conservatory,
Yes.
which is one of the best in Italy, in Rome in particular. Okay, Riccardo, please go ahead.
Prima di fare l'esame di entrata al conservatorio mi ero già messo in modo per cercare qualcuno che mi insegnasse il braille musicale, in quanto ero consapevole che sarebbe stato necessario per seguire molti dei corsi del percorso di studi che volevo intraprendere. È stata una ricerca estenuante e che non ha prodotto risultati fino a quando sono stato proprio all'interno del conservatorio e dopo un paio di mesi che ero entrato in conservatorio ho trovato per fortuna, sottolineo per fortuna, perché purtroppo in Italia per apprendere il braille musicale c'è bisogno di fortuna. Ho conosciuto un maestro che me lo ha insegnato, Luigi Mariani, che in quel momento insegnava al Santa Cecilia come maestro di pianoforte, e questo mi ha permesso di seguire molti corsi che altrimenti mi sarebbero stati preclusi.
So basically, Riccardo, when he started studying at the conservatory, he was aware that he had to learn the musical braille to be able to follow many of the courses. And he started looking for someone to teach him, which was hard and very not easy to find, as there were no institutions, no associations, no courses, no groups, neither public nor offered by private. So I understand that it was a struggle to find a positive outcome. But after months of this search, and also after having begun already the studies, he found Mr. Luigi Mariani, Maestro Luigi Mariani, who
Yes.
at the time was teaching classical piano in that conservatory. And with him, you said that you learn musical braille. How long did it take to learn musical braille, Riccardo?
Circa 4 mesi, dopodiché sono riuscito a seguire materie come solfeggio, ear training e composizione.
So after about 4 or 5 months of studying, he learned musical braille, and he was able to follow solfeggio and other important courses that
Yes.
were needed to take the degree.
Yes. Durante il mio percorso di studi al triennio e al biennio sono riuscito ad avere molte soddisfazioni, non soltanto terminando i vari corsi attraverso il braille musicale e soprattutto attraverso un altro importante strumento che ho appreso, che è un programma di editing musicale che mi ha permesso di scrivere musica, sarebbe l'equivalente di Finale, ma diciamo che funziona con il braille. L'equivalenza yes.
Okay, so basically this path proved rewarding for you, if I understood. Also because you got taught how to use a software that allows you to write music. It is called a cold braille music editor. It is called a braille music editor.
Yes.
If I get it right, which you didn't know it existed, is it? Non sapevi che esistesse prima e l'hai scoperto. Okay.
Assolutamente, yes. E nel momento in cui ho iniziato anche a comporre con questo programma e con il braille musicale, ho avuto molte soddisfazioni, perché in quel momento potevo fornire spartiti a chi suonava con me di musica arrangiata e o composta da me. Yes.
So basically, Riccardo started to write and compose music and sharing this music to other people that had impairments like him. Riccardo, tu mi hai raccontato di avere un gruppo. Riccardo, he told me in a previous phone call that he started a musical group made with other three people. Is it right?
Yes. Sì, è corretto. Ho diversi progetti, fra i quali un gruppo, un ensemble molto affiatato, e insieme a me suonano altre 3 persone con disabilità visive, e abbiamo fatto diversi concerti e speriamo di riuscire a farne altri se non ci saranno problemi con il Covid in autunno e in inverno. E in questo gruppo molti dei brani che proponiamo li arrangio io.
So Riccardo basically started a quartet made up of 3 other blind musicians, and they rearrange music, and they've done several concerts. And Riccardo is willing to get to the stage again after the COVID pandemic will cease. Also, Riccardo told me that you directed an orchestra. Is it right?
Hai diretto un'orchestra?
Sì, ho diretto all'interno del mio percorso di studi al Santa Cecilia durante la specialistica, diciamo il capo dipartimento di jazz mi ha affidato la direzione artistica di un progetto che ho dovuto insomma gestire, creare arrangiamenti e poi dirigere in 2 concerti, in particolare l'ultimo che abbiamo fatto nel 2016, se non erro, alla Casa del Jazz.
Quanti musicisti hai diretto, Riccardo?
Se non erro, erano circa 16.
Okay, so Riccardo confirmed he directed an orchestra of 16 jazz musicians in the 2016, and also in that case, most of the partitures were written by him, rearranged by him through the software that he told us about. Ok, Riccardo, grazie per questo, diciamo, quadro. Thank you for this chronicle of your path. But let's now go to the date today. So, what is your desire and your goal for the future, and also what would be the message that you want to share through our antenna?
Allora, quel messaggio vuoi trasmettere, ma qual è anche il tuo obiettivo finale, cioè qual è il tuo obiettivo a lungo termine?
Ok, il messaggio che vorrei trasmettere è che la musica per persone con disabilità visive può essere una grandissima alternativa, ma proprio per lavorarci, per farlo diventare una professione, una grandissima alternativa alle poche alternative che oggi ha un non vedente per lavorare, oltre a uno splendido hobby ovviamente. Poi rispondo al seguito.
Sì, so he's focusing on one point which is slightly aside with what we already said. So Riccardo is stating that music can be a career, a job, a professional job, apart from the traditional jobs that are usually encountered with when it comes to blind people. And this is the message that he wants to spread through our platform. So also something else you wanted to keep going on?
Vuoi fare qualcosa nel futuro? Che progetti per il futuro?
I progetti per il futuro sono di continuare a insegnare le materie che tuttora insegno, come ear training, solfeggio, composizione, soprattutto sassofono, che è il mio strumento, e anche il braille musicale attraverso il software che dicevamo prima. Un altro obiettivo mio è cercare di diffondere il più possibile, magari con l'aiuto di qualche istituzione non guasterebbe, diffondere il più possibile il braille musicale, perché è importante per un musicista non vedente imparare a leggere e a scrivere la musica.
So Riccardo really wants to keep achieving his goals in musical career, and also by the help, he's calling up for help for some institution that can help him teach other people to spread the musical brain and the possibilities that they have, and also the other topic of a musical career, and then create a community of people that can bloom and flourish.
Yes, perché mi ha chiesto qualcosa.
Ok, perfetto. Allora, Riccardo, io ti ringrazio tantissimo, da parte nostra ovviamente il massimo sostegno, e anche ti inviterò anche a prendere contatti con i ragazzi in UK. So I'm telling Riccardo that I really thank him, and we will give us an association all of our support, and also we will put him in contact with the organization that you represent. So maybe you can share some part of the path together and find a collaboration.
Thank you very much, Elvis.
Oh, you're welcome, Riccardo. So we're almost done. We're gone over time, but this is a good sign, because we had something to share, and but I think we're now at the end of the meeting. I really want to thank all of you to taking part to this. Really, the inspiration that you gave us, for me, is, I can state as much as precious this is for me, and for the people that had the possibility to.
Tutte le possibilità che ci avete raccontato su questa
Scusami, Elena, potresti mettere muto? Excuse me, Elena, could you please mute the call, because we're hearing the translation. Thank you very much. So thank you everybody for inspiring us, and I hope this will be just the first starting point of a path that we can make from here, through our work, through your example, and through the people which is welcome to come and join us, because we need for this cultural change, as Riccardo has stated here in Italy. If you'd like to say a word, you're more than welcome. For me, it's all.
Thank you very much, Elvis, and thanks to everyone. It's been really nice to be connected with you and to feel your passion for this topic. So thanks for having us. Grazie mille.
Apri un po' il microfono.
Prego, Rich.
Perfecto.
So, guys, thank you very much again. Enjoy the date and the weekend, and keep on the good track, keep on the good work. You'll always be home and welcome here in Italy. Ciao Sonia, ciao Rich, ciao Louis, ciao Rachel, ciao Kris, ciao Riccardo, ciao Elena.
Thank you very much.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.